For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ronald, my dad's son. And the funny thing is, the only time I ever saw my dad cry was at his mom's funeral. You never understand grief until it really happens. I wrote a little more than my brother. However, I will try to get through this as best I can. I was going to come up here and talk about how my father was a great man, how he was a great family man, historian, and artist, how he loved to paint, draw, make jewelry, and sew a lot of clothes. But the truth is, he wasn't. He was a son, a brother, a husband, and a father. He was a man trying to get by in this world like the rest of us. I was lucky enough to be born into his family. When it comes to our parents, we don't get to choose. I'm lucky. I get to claim my father was a pillar of his community. All my life, from the day I was born, I got to see him be a son to his mother. I didn't know my grandfather, except for the stories my dad told about him. You see, my dad was only about 15 when his father died. Side note. No, I'm not going to say it. I got to see him be a brother to his older sister, my Aunt Doris. I won't repeat the stories he told about her. I also got to see him be a husband to my mother. Excuse me. And finally, I got to call him Dad. Did I mention? I also got to see him be a world traveler. When I was a kid, we would take family trips during the summer. Mom and Dad were both school teachers, so there always seemed to be plenty of time to take trips. We would go back east to see relatives. Some I knew, and some I didn't. My Aunt Shirley and Uncle John were the focal points of several trips. The highlight of one such trip is my dad sitting with me on a ride called Space Mountain. Unfortunately, not my dad's favorite ride in Disney World. I was about 5 at the time and didn't know then that he didn't like roller coasters. I'm told he laughed during the whole ride to make me feel better. Looking back, I'm not sure he was trying to make, looking back, I'm not so sure he wasn't trying to make himself feel better. I don't think I ever saw him on another coaster. My most favorite trip was again to visit Aunt Shirley and Uncle John. I was about 15, and Greg would have been around 22. We spent the month of July in Virginia, and because of this trip, we were able to see and tour all the monuments in Washington, D.C., the ones that were there anyway. There's many more since then. Most of the battlefields and historical sites of the Civil War in the area, to include Gettysburg and historical Williamsburg. One day, we went to the Arlington National Cemetery. For those of you who may not know, this is a military cemetery. We visited John F. Kennedy's gravesite, along with his eternal flame. We visited the tomb of the unknown soldier and were able to watch the changing of the guard ceremony. I believe Dad was as moved and impressed as I was. These are just a couple trips I will never forget. Later in life, after Mom and Dad retired, they took many trips. They traveled all over the world, a little at a time, the Panama Canal by boat, land tours of Europe and Australia. They made several trips to Hawaii. While Dad was well, they even took the grandkids on individual trips. To the Caribbean. There was one last trip we all went on as a larger family. Mom and Dad took us, Greg and me, and our wives, on a cruise to Alaska. This was an amazing trip that I will never forget. Sorry. Much harder to do when you're crying. Dad would use his talents in almost everything he did. I can remember him making large vinyl banners for my soccer team and my high school band. He would display them at all the events. I don't think he ever missed one of my Little League games, and I had many. I can remember him and Mom sitting on those portable lawn chairs behind home plate, Dad yelling, "Come on, Ron, you can hit it," every time I was up to bat. I don't know if it was his support, but I didn't strike out very often. As a father to me, a rowdy little boy, I can remember his love and caring side. I don't know how many times I ended up in the hospital getting stitches. Caused by dog bites and bicycle accidents. My first memory of him, my first memory of my dad was him holding me, a 3.5-year-old boy. I had just been bitten by the neighbor's mutt. To this day, I see the dog is this high. Dad was holding me and telling me, "It'll be okay." I don't think he knew I could see myself in the bathroom mirror. The right side of my face was all bloody, and all I could think was, how am I going to be okay? I don't remember all the stitches, but I do remember Dad was always calm. "Oh, not again. was a familiar phrase. I have lost count the number of people who have told me they are sorry for my loss. Honestly, up until about 20 minutes ago, I didn't really know how to respond. I was born into this family, brought up in this church. I accepted Jesus as my Savior in this very building. At the age of 8, I was given the freedom to make my own choices and learn my faith at home and in these rooms all around us. I was taught that salvation is just the beginning, and death is the doorway to a better life in heaven. Yes, I am sad to lose such a wonderful man here on earth. I may have to revise this last statement. I don't see it as a loss, but a new beginning. A journey we will all take very soon in the great scheme of things. Dad won't even see the time go by, for time is of the flesh. It's funny how looking at the past of one person can bring up so many memories of oneself. However, this isn't about me or my father. It's about him, our God. Dad knew this. I look around and I see all the things my dad has done and made. This church, to his last breath, was a cornerstone in his life. He cared for everyone that was ever associated with it. Some of those people even became his best friends. And many of you are here today to honor a man I strive to be like. A man I call Dad.